Oh, thank you for
joining us.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and talking with us about the industry. So we are super excited that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do about Liquid?
Sure. So I am a talent agent representative for the folks on our roster as far as talent who are involved in acting. We do print modeling as well and voiceover. So those are really the three components to our business. And I also do casting. So serving as casting director for a variety of different projects where that can be anything from feature films to TV shows. Our latest one was the True Terror with Robert England as the show host, and we had lots of great folks from the Richmond and beyond areas that participated. So that was fun.
Yeah. How many people do you represent?
It really varies. I would say our roster is pretty transient just because people are often moving on to other opportunities in other markets like First Market, LA, and New York. Atlanta has obviously been a hot spot. Well, let me preface that with pre-COVID. COVID has had an impact on the world, obviously. Yeah. So prior to COVID, we had lots of people coming and going. So we're always looking for new folks who have a passion for this, have an interest, and just want to get involved. And you've got to start somewhere. So that's usually what we say when we have our initial discussions is it's okay if you don't have experience. We'll help you build that knowledge, skills, and abilities to get to where you want to go.
Oh, that's great. So you're based in Virginia?
We're based in Richmond, Virginia. Yes, we have an office in DC and an office in New York, but our primary lines of business have really been established in Richmond.
Okay, and you book things in New York and DC too?
We do, not as heavily, and of course, right now, like again with COVID, the impact of that, it's slowed down substantially just from a projects moving forward standpoint. But yeah, I'd say the majority of our business really runs from the DC area all the way down to the Carolinas. That's really been the gist. And then we've even had some projects in Texas and Florida. So here and there throughout the U.S.
That is awesome. Yeah, Katya lives right outside of D.C., right?
Yeah, I'm in Maryland, like 30 minutes away from D.C.
Oh, okay. Nice area.
I know. It's so nice.
Yeah.
So for clients, you named a couple, but can you give us like a list of some of your clients that you've been working for, and how many years have you had Liquid?
I've had Liquid. This is my 9th year.
Oh my gosh!
So
9 years?
I know, right?
Wow.
9 years, Kim. 9 years. Oh my gosh. Wow. So yes, we've kind of expanded things to include more like voiceover, but really our primary line of business is for acting. And then a smaller portion is print work, and then a smaller portion is voiceover, although the voiceover does seem to be building, which is great. We've worked with, my goodness, our most recent one, we did a voiceover for an Audi shoot, which was super cool. We've got, we also do pet casting. So we are doing a shoot for Walmart with a cat. Actually, this is our second shoot with a cat.
Wait a minute. Was a cat like acting
a cat? Acting cat.
Yeah.
We've got a music video shoot scheduled for this Friday with a rat. Actually, she has 2 rats, so she's having both of her rats on set. And we've done lots of projects with dogs. So if you have a critter that might be interested in project work that's trained and listened,
that is so funny. That is so funny. Okay, we're just going to rule out people from now on.
Yeah,
and we'll only do animals.
Well, and actually, lots of people then get involved. So we start at age 4. We say 4 to 94. We're looking for those real people talent. But we've worked with the SPCA, Pizza Hut, Walmart, lots with Virginia Lottery. So lots of local. We just did a huge project with US Cellular, and that was all done virtually because of COVID.
Yeah.
So that seems to be rocking and rolling. And then, like I said, the TV shows, the feature films. We did locations casting for Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really super.
That was fun. That was cool. And that was just locations in Norfolk because obviously they needed the naval backdrop. So yes.
Yeah, I would think you would get a lot of commercial stuff happening and because of the naval down there.
Right. And they do a lot of industrials as well, which basically means that they do a lot of video shoots for their own internal training purposes.
Right. So and haven't you done some movies for like I don't want to say Civil War, but like that.
Yes. Yeah, we did Field of Lost Shoes. Yes, so historical reenactments and representations. Yes, we've done quite a few of those, as well as TV shows along those lines too. So we typically will partner with other casting directors just to make sure we've got plenty of talent to supply for the productions.
And so if you partner with a casting director, where does that casting director usually come from?
Usually they're a specialist in their field. So technically they would have access to reenactor talent who have specific wardrobe that the client's looking for. And then provide other individuals who supply the talent for other roles. So it could be that they're looking for a very specific, like, Army personnel that have certain different wardrobe, different units, and they would supply that, and then we would supply others who fit into the wardrobe that they have based on the historical period that they're reenacting.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So do you find that you do more commercials or movies or print stuff, or is it just a gamut of, I'm voiceover now, but what's your main clients that you feel like is important?
Right now, it's really commercial. Things have, again, slowed down with the pandemic, but it's been commercial. That has really built up lots of activity there. Like I said, from lottery to national broadcast, lots of local things. We're working some more on magazines and having models involved in some print work. So that's good. And then the voiceover is, again, really a specialty where you have to have certain equipment typically or be able to go to the studio and then be able to have those discussions and just give them your voice. Hey.
So I wanted to ask you, for someone that doesn't know what is commercial modeling, because I feel like people keep hearing and the idea of model is all your top models, the fashion modeling. So could you tell us a little bit more about the commercial part of it and what your agency does?
Sure, yeah. So we don't do, and I always say, I don't do the fashion. I'm not involved in that at all. I don't do runway. I have no avenues for that type of work in the industry at all. So that's not me. If you're looking for that, I'm not your girl. But if you're looking for, that would be Kim. Hey.
Right.
If you're looking for opportunities to maybe represent a product, we do like health insurance products, and then they end up in magazines or billboards. So that would be more along the lines of commercial, where they're looking for, again, not the people who are on the runway or high fashion, but they're looking for the real people, attractive people who they can then put associated with a product. We're working right now with Virginia Living magazine, and we did one with them for like a bridal shoot.
Oh, nice.
And then we also had done one just to represent different like hotels. The next one we're doing is in Northern Virginia for like a boutique hotel. So they're actually looking for models for that at this point. But that's more along the lines of the commercial side of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that answer your question?
And, yeah. Okay. And what are the requirements? So are there any strict requirements, like to be a fashion model? We all know you have to fit the size. What about commercial modeling?
I look for real people. So I don't have a height requirement or weight requirement. I mean, the client can, and I don't want to get too far down an HR trail because my specialty is really human resources, and this aligns nicely with human resources, but the client can specify, certain hair color, eye color, height, and weight. All of those are considered occupational qualifications in our industry. So the client can specify that, but really it's more based on the initial look, which is why a headshot in what I do would be so important. So we start with headshots.
Right. That was my next question.
Hey, perfect. We send that information over to the clients, and then they take a look at the person's look, and then we factor in the other details, be it height, weight, and so forth.
So it's just real people. It's real people for commercial. Yeah. So anybody can do it. I mean, anybody who's interested in getting in front of the camera, acting or modeling or whatever.
Right, making sure you're comfortable, making sure that it's something you want to do. Because I've seen some people get on set and be like, "Oh, I don't know that I really want to speak in front of the camera."
Well, and sometimes they don't have to speak, right?
Right, exactly. Sometimes it can be a background or non-speaking. Again, back to that, you have to start somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah. So one of the things in that headshot arena part I was going to ask you is, for the actor's headshot and a modeling headshot, tell us sort of the difference of what that kind of looks like.
Well, I can speak to what I need for my operation, and I know the modeling industry is pretty different.
Yeah.
What we need are industry standard actors' headshots. That's very specific as far as the terms. It's the appropriate framing, it's the appropriate lighting, it's the appropriate wardrobe, it's the look and feel. For most of my clients, they prefer exterior shots. So those photographers who can take shots outside with the appropriate lighting, and then being able to frame up the shot so it's head and shoulders. Not a whole lot of makeup. Again, we're looking for real people.
Natural,
Certainly
yeah.
We can add makeup,
Yeah.
but really they want to see, what is it this person looks like in real life versus, we don't need full body shots. That may be something more of a necessity for modeling, or a lifestyle shot. That's really not something, it's great if we have it in their package or their profile within our system, but it's not a requirement.
So for the actor part, do they do different kind of facial expressions? So maybe they would be laughing or looking mad or sad or
Right. So typically it would be different looks, and usually with those different looks, we'd want wardrobe changes and we'd want appearance changes. So it may be, we want to try to position the talent in as wide a spectrum as we can. So you could be, a Walmart mom or a student at a local university. I mean, just run the gamut. We don't want the client to look at you and say you could only be, a Walmart mom. So we make sure that you've got that wide positioning within the field so that you can play multiple roles. We don't want to, position anybody that's in just one particular type of role.
Right. And so, so you were talking about ages. So you said from 4 to 80 years old.
Yeah, 4 to 94 is what we kind of jokingly say.
Wow.
Right.
We have lots of, assisted living retirement communities, and we're looking for people, 60, 70 plus to participate in those opportunities. And then we get, children's hospital types of projects that we're looking for kids.
That is awesome. So, what are some of the challenges that you face having a, do you call it an agency or a management? It's more of an agency. Yeah.
I'm not a manager, definitely.
Tell me the difference. Let's go there first.
So a manager would take each individual talent and make sure you're focused on that particular person and book things with various casting directors and various agencies, versus an agency, I'm representing my roster. So I'm not focused necessarily on in any particular person, but I'm giving the multitude on our roster the equal opportunity to land a project that we may have that we're working on.
Okay. And so that is perfect. So now everybody knows what the difference is, because that's a big question I always get. What's the difference between, because I'm more of a management, I specialize in each individual, and you're more of an agency where it's the whole big picture.
Exactly. And we can work together. I mean, certainly, I have folks on the roster that have managers. So, definitely working together, because you've got that focus on that individual, and I've got the focus on the talent and the clients.
So what are some of your challenges that you face with some of your talent? Do you have, you know what I'm talking about, like challenges, or I guess would be showing up on time or something like that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Being sure you're there on time, making sure you know where to go. So having that information, and some talent even take a test drive the day before. Now, of course, again, the pandemic has kind of put a damper on lots of things. So we're doing lots of smaller productions, super safe sets. Even virtual productions are happening quite a bit, but definitely making sure you know where to go, having the appropriate wardrobe, and making sure that wardrobe is camera ready.
Yeah.
So is it clean? Is it pressed? Don't expect the production to do that for you when you get to set. Did you need to come makeup and hair ready? Those are the details that we try to make sure we provide to the talent to make sure that the client has a successful interaction with them, leading to a successful shoot.
So we talk about that for our Model Secrets online. We talk about, for models, they need their model. We call it the model bag. So yours is the talent bag.
Right. Exactly.
So they have their makeup. So they have everything, because I think a lot of times people forget that if you go on a shoot, sometimes the makeup artist may not show up, or the stylist may not show up to bring the clothes. So if you are prepared, then you look totally professional in that avenue.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And not to break plaids and the logo. We try to provide that direction as well, so you don't get there on set and have all the wrong wardrobe. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about that because I feel like people don't really know that as a commercial model, they often request you to bring your own wardrobe and that's the biggest misconception because people have no idea that you actually got to have your own wardrobe. So for, let's say, the beginner model, what should she purchase like once she's getting into that commercial road?
Sure. I would say plain colors are good. Colors are good. So a variety of different colors, a variety of different necklines as far as tops go. Depending on, if it's seasonal, non-seasonal, you could have some sweaters. Just a couple things. I would say a rule of thumb would probably be about 5 different outfits. Maybe some jeans, some khakis, a skirt, just different outfits that you can take to set. Again, no logos. Be careful of patterns. I usually say no spots.
No stripes.
No spots and no dots, no stripes, no patterns or flannel or any of that.
Yeah.
Some clients will provide wardrobe. Yeah. We just did a project with Sheets, and they had some of our talent who were the Sheets employees, and they provided the wardrobe, obviously, because it's a look and feel. If it's something that's very much so just a client thing that they need, like if they needed you to bring boots with you and you don't have boots, then obviously we need to have that communication with the client to let them know they need to purchase that for you prior to you getting on set because you don't have that.
Wow, great information. That is really great. So, and one of the questions we had too was, what's the difference between a reel and a slate?
So your slate is your introduction. So it would be, hello, my name is Sheri Bias. I'm with Liquid Talent Agency, and I'm auditioning for the role of XYZ. And then your reel is your culmination of all of your projects that you've done as much as you can. I've seen some really great reels, and I've seen some short reels, and then lots of people just do a self-tape. We're working right now with a client out of Lynchburg, and they want a self-tape of 2 people interacting. It's actually a real mom and a son, which is kind of cool. So they can do that together. So instead of looking at their reels, they want to see the chemistry between them in kind of a live, let's tape it now, or even some clients have done Zoom. So really, it's a slate is your intro, your reel is your culmination of everything, but there are other avenues you can go to get the video as well.
Okay, great. So do you need a funny mom and a funny son?
Yeah.
Because we are that.
He has to be 8.
No, that won't work.
Mike will be like, no.
Won't work for you or for me. How old is your son now? You have a son, right? How old is he?
Yes, he's 21.
Yay.
He just graduated from William & Mary, and now he's pursuing his MBA. So I know, time flies, right? He's doing great. Super proud of him. And he's the reason that this whole thing really got started. He was actually with another talent agent, kind of doing some things here and there, fell into doing some Walmart stuff. And then we connected Kim, obviously, and then it's all history. But yeah, Justin's pretty much the reason that all this kind of moved forward.
Aw, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. I mean, it's really sweet.
I know, right?
He's a good boy.
It's all his fault.
He's such a good boy. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he's just a sweet, sweet, wonderful boy.
He is. He's a good kid. He'll always be my kid. I know.
Yeah,
Probably
of course, baby,
sorry,
right?
Justin.
You can always be your baby, even after college and when they're married. But anyway, so back to the business. So tell me how much on an average, and I know this is going to vary, but on an average, how much money could someone make doing a commercial? And then, of course, the residuals of usage.
Yeah, wow. It really varies. It depends on if it's union or non-union. It depends on the usage. They typically will pay for usage for a commercial. And then the residuals, like you mentioned, if it's a union job, they're going to pay you for your time. They're going to pay you typically for a usage fee. And then they'll pay you for residuals or rebuy. After that, the U.S. Cellular project that I mentioned, she actually filmed in March. So we had one talent on that. She filmed in March. They sent her a check for her time for the filming. Then they sent her a check when they figured out what the usage was going to be. And then just yesterday, they sent her another check because they want to buy again. So
that's
she's
fantastic.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
I'm like, yes.
Yes, that is so cool.
Now,
so just a roundabout. So like a roundabout, like day rate, is it like 1,500 or 200 or, I mean, just a roundabout?
It really depends. It depends on the project.
And the client, right?
Right, and the client. I don't go hourly. I never do hourly because it's too hard to track. And let's call it a half a day.
Yeah, or a day.
Our half a day would be about 5 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends. And then you've got a variety of different scales on the TV shows as well. Now, what it is important, because that's a hard question to answer because it varies so widely. And it also depends because like we did a shoot for a hospital system and they came back and wanted a still shot to put on a billboard. Now that's a whole nother round of compensation for the talent. Hey, but really what matters is to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understanding that as the talent agent or as the casting director, I do not set the rates. That is set by the production. And lots of times people will say, well, I can't believe you're offering me that rate for what I'm getting ready to do. Well, here's the offer. If it's not something that is attractive to you, then you can certainly decline the offer. But I don't set the rates. Certainly I can talk to them to see if there's any negotiating room, but typically the production will set the rates and let me know this is what they're offering for the talent services and for the usage.
But it's definitely more than a minimum wage.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Most of the time, yeah. So it's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And how often do you figure that your talent works? So if you have like a 20 of your talent, I mean, do they work like once a month or once a year, or what's the average?
Pre-COVID or post-COVID?
I mean, pre-COVID.
I will say that 2019 was our busiest year ever, and we were rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So we had multiple people working. Some would work 2 jobs in a day. So it was that busy. Yeah. Now, not as much.
And it's all Virginia?
Really down. Mainly in Virginia. Obviously, that took a little finagling. We had two TV shows, the True Terror, which I mentioned earlier, and then one on Lover's Lane, the Colonial Parkway murders. We had 2 of them filming at one time, and we had one talent who actually bounced back and forth between sets. So they were all local, Hampton Roads and Richmond area, so he could do that, but obviously geography plays a part in that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends on, your look, it depends on the demographic, the competitiveness in your demographic, and honestly, it depends on your headshots because it's so competitive right now. Because I've got a lot of people who say, oh, I can go in the backyard and take my own headshots. I don't need a photographer. Well, you can, certainly, but that doesn't mean that the clients are going to select you because everybody else has the appropriate materials where you've shown, you've invested in yourself and got the appropriate materials, and now you're ready to be marketed to them. And someone who's gone in the backyard and taken a picture, now that it's probably not a great picture, but that's not seen as having made that investment and really a commitment to what you want to do for your future.
Right. And it's not that much of an investment, I don't think, for headshots. It's not really to do a modeling portfolio, I think it does cost a lot more to get involved in that. And
I mean, one headshot, you get the money back after your first job.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's totally worth it.
You can find economical headshots. I mean, you can find headshots for a couple $100 on upwards to a couple thousand. So really, it depends on what you're looking for. And then I would always say, even if it's not with Liquid, consult your agent to make sure that you understand what that agent's looking for in your materials.
And I think that's important. Yeah, in New York, it's going to be a little more expensive than it probably would in DC, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And headshot photographers travel too. So, I mean, you may catch them at a time they're in your location and work something out. Yeah.
Right. You had mentioned before non-union and union. Do you want to explain that just a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So a project can decide to go union, which means that union would be given the priority, as I understand how the protocols work, and it's in my experience. So when you're looking at casting, then you would be looking at those demographics that the client wants, because obviously the example I usually give is if you have, a Pampers commercial, you might not be looking for 50-year-olds. You might be, but you might not be more than likely you're probably not.
Mhm.
So you look at those, what are the BFOQs or those occupational qualifications? And then you're going to target, who is a upstanding dues paid member of the union that would then fit those demographics. And certainly they would then get priority as far as consideration. That's my understanding as far as how that operates. And then for non-union, and now you can be non-union and work a union job, and we would do something called a Taft-Hartley for you. And that's what then gives you the eligibility to join the union. So you have to get so many vouchers on a union job, and then you can actually become an eligible member. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a long conversation. I know.
Right, right. And with the
Just a
union,
touch.
obviously, there's more protection. You typically would get those residuals, just depending on the type of job. And I don't want to be said to misspeak on this. So if there is any clarification, obviously that again, I want to make sure that I'm explaining it to the best of my understanding.
Yeah.
But basically, there are protections, there are rights. You would typically get payments for certain things, like obviously overtime would be paid, which may not be paid on a non-union job. You could get a wardrobe bump. You could get a mileage bump. So all of that would be in the union contract. Versus a non-union, you don't get afforded as many of those protections.
Right. And I know that union, you also get maybe health insurance. Do they still? Yeah, I didn't know.
Right. That's what I understand. They have the benefits associated with that for the dues paying members, as far as I understand.
And I would just, for me, when I was modeling and I did some TV commercials, then I would be slated as union, and I had to pay my union dues, and I have health insurance through the union, and I was SAG. So
right.
But I'm not, of course, not now. But I mean, I just know that when I was modeling, that was part of. That's a whole. I mean, that's a whole. Big,
right. That's a whole separate conversation. And
but it's interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you work with Virginia Film Office too?
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and oftentimes that will take podcasting events and then promote that. We also work with the Virginia Production Alliance, so they've been a great avenue as well. All these entities together are amazing. They do have the twice a year, well, again, pre-pandemic, they had the twice a year gatherings, which was amazing. It had, industry professionals from, mainly from here in Virginia, but then we'd get some from DC and other locations. But we'd have a Richmond one and a Hampton Roads one, and people would just come out and have conversations. Liquid typically set up a booth there and talk to people who are interested in becoming talent.
That is so interesting. And that was at PBS Studios, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so awesome.
Great networking.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I think that you have answered. I'm just trying to think if there's any other.
I have a question.
Go. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the website like Casting Networks and Actors Access? Like, I know some people can use them if they don't have a representation necessarily.
Right. I'm not that familiar with them. And the reason is my agency is not SAG franchised. And I chose specifically not to go SAG franchised because I want the autonomy to be able to manage the business to the best of my ability. And there were certain things that you had to do in order to achieve franchising, which again, it was a strategic decision that I made. We pursued it at one point and just said, I think we're good with where we are as far as, an organizational model. Many of those, in order to get access to them from a talent agent, casting director standpoint, you have to have the franchising behind your name. So for anyone who's looking to get involved, possibly without representation, those would be great avenues. I don't know what the requirements would be to join those sites. With Liquid, we have our own talent management infrastructure. So none of my models are posted out on the website for everybody to see, just because my director in New York had a stalking incident. So that's something that I've pretty much said to my talent, I'm not going to do that. So my clients know that if they're looking for talent, they come to me, and I manage it. We're the ones that do the input into the system as far as their information, their headshots, making sure that everything works in the profiles for each individual. But that's how we run the business, and that infrastructure has been very successful.
Which I think is amazing, because that gives privacy, especially for children. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. I really do. I think I give you credit for that. And then you send out, which I know you send out packages. So if a client calls, then you send out, it's called packages, which you can do within your system, right?
Right, exactly. And I always tell my talent that if you ever get a call out of the blue from a production or anyone saying, Sheri said to call you about such and such, please call me immediately, because I do not give out information, no contact information, unless we've actually had an email or a text or we've spoken, and to make sure we're on the same page.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, it's a scary world out there. So I want to make sure everyone's safe.
You want to protect them. I think it's a great way to protect them, not to have them on your site. And that way, I mean, when you have so many talent, I mean, you have how many, like probably over 300, correct? If not.
Yeah. We've got a couple hundred on the roster. And again, it's very transient, just depending on, because there are certain demographics that are I guess, more popular as far as wanting to get into acting. So we've got certain populations like, Asian grandmothers. I don't have a whole lot of, people that fall into that particular category. So when we're looking for those, I may have to do more of an outreach on social media or through the VPA to try to find that particular demographic.
Right. So sometimes you just have to search for
a
family.
And sometimes the client's like, hey, this is open to anyone, or they may be searching for a family. Like for Buffalo Wild Wings, that is actually filming this week, they wanted a real family. They were very specific. They wanted a mom and a dad and a daughter and a son between these ages and this particular ethnicity. So we found about a half a dozen, but that was more of a one than if they said, I want a blonde hair, blue-eyed Caucasian female. I've got a lot more range there for filling that.
Yeah, it's hard to find those families, isn't it?
Right.
I would think.
Well, and right now with COVID, they want everybody to have been quarantined together, right?
Yes, exactly. So are they shooting? I mean, are they doing it on Zoom, or how are they shooting?
No, it'll actually be in the studio. It'll be they go through the COVID. In fact, I actually was on the Sheets production the other day, so I got to see kind of firsthand what some of the precautions are. Everybody wears a mask. You get temperature checked, usually several times a day, although the ocean requirements, as I understand, it's once a day before you begin. Right. So there's requirements. Everybody got their own bottle of hand sanitizer, and everybody got their own roll of toilet paper.
I love that.
I had to laugh about that because here and there. But I mean, it was super, super sanitary, and I was the AD on that project, and the director kept saying, okay, make sure you keep these people 6 feet apart. So everybody had to make sure that social distancing was practiced, even though it was an outside, exterior shoot. We practiced social distancing.
Well, I guess that's the way we have to do it now.
Yeah, it really is. We have to be safe. That's the first priority.
Yep. And it's great that people are starting to work now, right? I mean, that's awesome.
Yes, because it's been months. I mean, some of the virtual projects, like I said, the U.S. Cellular, but mainly it's kind of dried up, and projects were put on hold, and now they're starting to come back alive. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Good. That is really great. So where can everybody find you and Liquid Talent?
Sure. So our website is www.liquidtalentgroup.com. So it's Liquid Talent Group. Or my email is just my last name, which is Bias, Bias, @liquidtalentgroup.com. So feel free if they want to email or go to our website. If you go to our website, you can do a new talent submission. It's a new talent submission, not new production submission. We often get this confused. I get talent submissions that are like, I don't know when I want to shoot. So yes, we're definitely taking new talent at this point. We're hoping that some of these projects that were put on hold prior to the pandemic are going to come back around, and certainly, are more than interested to talking to folks who might be interested in the business.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and
absolutely
knowledge. It was really great.
It was fun. It was so great to see you.
Oh my God, yeah. So much information.
Yeah.
So good. Well, I hope I answered all your questions.
You did.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.